The phone's shrill ring sliced through the silence of my hotel room, yanking me from a restless sleep. It was 3:27 a.m., and the glowing numbers on the bedside clock burned into my vision. I fumbled for my phone, heart pounding, expecting an emergency, maybe my sister, or worse, something about Mom. The screen flashed an unknown number, local to my hometown, 2 hours away. I answered, voice thick with grogginess. "Hello? Is this Daniel Harper?" The voice was sharp, clipped like a knife cutting through fog. "This is Margaret Voss, president of the Willow Creek HOA. We need the keys to your property. Now." I sat up, the cheap hotel mattress creaking under me. "Excuse me? It's 3 in the morning? I'm not even in town." "That's irrelevant," she snapped. "You've violated Section 4.2 of the Covenant. Unauthorized modifications to your property. We're conducting an inspection, and you need to hand over the keys immediately." My stomach twisted. I was in a budget hotel in the city, 120 miles from Willow Creek, attending a work conference that could make or break my career. The HOA's rules were a distant annoyance, a bureaucratic tick I'd swatted away since buying my fixer-upper 6 months ago. "This can't wait until morning?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "No," Margaret said, her tone icy. "You'll drive back now, or we'll escalate this to legal action. Be here by 6 a.m. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my pulse racing. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. Willow Creek was a quiet suburb. Its HOA is self-appointed. Dictatorship, obsessed with manicured lawns and identical mailboxes. I'd painted my front door red, hardly a crime, but their letters had grown increasingly hostile. Now this, a middle-of-night demand to drive across the state? It was absurd. Yet the threat of legal action gnawed at me. I had no savings for a lawyer, and my job was already on thin ice. I threw on clothes, grabbed my keys, and stumbled into the night. The conference could wait. My boss would be furious, but losing my house wasn't an option. The highway stretched before me, a black ribbon under a starless sky. Rattled as I pushed it to 80, the engine's whine mirroring the anxiety clawing at my chest. What modifications were they talking about? The door? The shed I'd started building, or was this something else entirely? The radio crackled, spitting static and half-heard voices, but I couldn't focus on it. My mind churned with worst-case scenarios, fines, liens, foreclosure. I'd bought the house to start fresh after a brutal divorce, pouring every spare dollar into repairs. It was mine, damn it, not Margaret Voss's personal fiefdom. By the time I hit the halfway mark, the dashboard clock read 4:45 a.m. My eyes burned and the road blurred. I cracked the window, letting cold air slap me awake. Willow Creek appeared as dawn bled gray into the horizon. The neighborhood was eerily still, its cookie-cutter houses bathed in the dim glow of streetlights. My house sat at the end of Maple Lane, a modest 2-bedroom with peeling siding and that defiant red door. I parked, my hands shaking as I killed the engine. Margaret's voicemail echoed in my head. Be here by 6 a.m. It was 5:53. I stepped out. The air damp and heavy with the scent of wet grass. The street was empty. No sign of Margaret or her HOA cronies. My house looked untouched, the windows dark, the door still that bold, unapologetic red. I clutched my keys, the metal biting into my palm. What did they want with them? Were they planning to barge in, rifle through my life? The thought sent a surge of anger through me, hot and sharp. Then I saw it a faint glow from my backyard. It's not the porch light, which I hadn't left on, but something softer, flickering, hot. My heart lurched. I crept along the side of the house, avoiding the creaky front steps. The grass was slick under my sneakers, and my breath caught as I rounded the corner. There, in the shadow of my half-built shed, stood 3 figures. Margaret Voss, unmistakable in her crisp blazer, flanked by 2 men I didn't recognize. One held a flashlight, the other a crowbar. "What the hell is this?" I called, stepping into view. My voice was louder than I intended, shattering the pre-dawn quiet. Margaret's head snapped toward me, her eyes narrowing. "Mr. Harper, you're early? Good." Her tone was calm, but it carried an edge, like a blade wrapped in silk. The man with the crowbar shifted, his face half hidden in shadow. Explain, I said, my fists clenching. Why are you on my property? What's with the crowbar? We're investigating a violation, Margaret said, stepping closer. Her flashlight beam swept over my shed, illuminating the unfinished frame. Your structure is unpermitted, and we've had reports. Reports of what? I demanded. The men exchanged a glance, and my skin prickled. Something was wrong here, beyond HOA nonsense. The crowbar glinted in the dim light, and I took a step back. Structural instability, Margaret said smoothly. We need to inspect your basement. Hand over the keys. My basement? I laughed, a harsh, disbelieving sound. You're not getting inside my house at 6 a.m. because of a shed. Show me a warrant. Her lips thinned. We don't need a warrant. The covenant grants us access for compliance checks. Refuse, and we'll involve the sheriff. The threat hit like a punch. The sheriff. For a shed. My mind raced. The basement was just storage boxes, old furniture, nothing worth this drama. But the way the men stood, tense and silent, made my gut twist. I glanced at the crowbar again. Were they planning to break in? Or worse? Fine, I said, fishing the keys from my pocket. I held them out, but when Margaret reached for them, I pulled back. Not until you tell me what's really going on. Her eyes flashed, and for a moment, I saw something fear. No, calculation. You've been digging, she said, her voice low. Behind the shed. We know. My blood ran cold. I hadn't told anyone about the digging. 2 weeks ago, I'd found a rusted lockbox buried near the shed's foundation while clearing dirt. It was small, heavy, and locked tight. I'd planned to open it later, assuming it was junk left by the previous owner. How did the HOA know? Had they been watching me? What's in the box? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Margaret's smile was thin, predatory. That's what we're here to find out. Give us the keys, Daniel, or this gets messy. The man with the crowbar took a step forward, and my heart slammed against my ribs. I was alone, outnumbered, and exhausted from the drive. The keys burned in my hand. If I gave them up, I'd lose control of my house, my privacy, maybe more. But if I didn't, what would they do? The crowbar wasn't for show. Back off, I said, raising my voice. I'm calling the police. The second man laughed, a low, guttural sound. Go ahead. It won't get here in time. Time for what? My mind screamed, but I didn't wait for an answer. I bolted for the front door, keys in hand, praying I could lock myself inside. Footsteps pounded behind me, heavy and fast. I fumbled with the lock, my hands slick with sweat, threw the door open just as a hand grabbed my shoulder. I spun, swinging wildly, and my fist connected with something solid. The crowbar man grunted, stumbling back. Margaret shouted something, but I was already inside, slamming the door and twisting the deadbolt. My chest heaved as I backed away, listening to the muffled voices outside. They weren't leaving. I grabbed my phone, dialing 911. Break-in, I gasped when the operator answered. 3 people, one's armed. Hurry. As I gave my address, I moved to the kitchen window, peering out. The backyard was empty now, the glow gone. Had they fled, or were they circling around? The lockbox, I needed to find it. If it was what they wanted, maybe I could use it to negotiate. I raced to the basement, flipping on the light. The air was damp, musty, the concrete floor littered with boxes. The lockbox sat in the corner, half hidden under a tarp. Grabbed it, its weight heavier than I remembered. Something rattled inside, metallic and ominous. What the hell had I stumbled into? Sirens wailed in the distance, and relief flooded me. But then I heard a faint creak from upstairs. The front door was locked, the windows secure. Yet the sound came again, deliberate, like footsteps on the hardwood. I gripped the lockbox, my pulse roaring in my ears. The police were coming, but would they get here in time?